Hi, I'm Jay, welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about daily vehicle checks. Now when we're out on a trip, we like to do these vehicle checks before we set off each day. It just gives us peace of mind that everything under the hood is fine and we've got everything we need for the journey. Now to help us remember everything, we use the POWDER acronym, which I'm going to show you just now. So our first item on our checklist is P for petrol or diesel, if you have a diesel vehicle. Might seem obvious to most people, but a lot of people have been caught out and still do get caught out with not having enough fuel for their journey. So keep it to basics, check your fuel level, and it might actually affect your routes for the day. For example, you might have to come straight out from camp and find a fuel station. O would be for oils. That doesn't just mean your engine oil, it also means any other oils in the system. So for example, this is an automatic transmission, and down here is our automatic transmission dipstick. We can tell if our oil's been burnt or damaged by the smell of it or by the colour, to see if we need to possibly look at getting it changed or even looked at while we're on our trip. At this point, I'd recommend wearing gloves. Yes, you can clean your hands afterwards, but whipping a pair of gloves off is a lot easier, and it can be difficult to wash your hands if you haven't got proper facilities. Now, to check your oil, it should be a pretty common thing for people to know, just in case you didn't know. Make sure you have a piece of rag at hand, pull the dipstick, wipe it, and put it back in. Now make sure you're on level ground and then pull it back out again. The Hilux can be a bit difficult to read, but as you can see, my oil level is between the two marks. W is for water / fluids. So this is where you would check the rest of the fluids in the vehicle. Obviously the main one would be coolant. Make sure the vehicle is cool before you do this. Either you might have to open the cap, or ours, because it's a see-through bottle, on the expansion bottle here, you can actually see the level here. Ours is actually a little bit low. Other fluids to check would be your brake fluid, your power steering fluid, and your washer fluid. Don't forget about your washer fluid. Again, all these can either be checked with either a dipstick type system like the washer fluid is, or on the side of the reservoir bottle. D is for damage. So have a walk around the vehicle. Make sure, especially if you've been off-roading the previous day, that there isn't any extra damage to the vehicle. Also have a look underneath the body to make sure there's no obvious signs of breakages. E would stand for electrics. A little bit obvious. However, again, a lot of people don't actually look at this. We have a voltmeter above our heads here which beeps if the battery levels get a bit too low, or if they're actually overcharging, if the alternator is giving out too much charge, for example. But another important part of electrics is your vehicle's lighting, so your headlights, your brake lights, your indicators, your fog lights, your reverse lights, plus any auxiliary lighting needs to be all checked before you hit the road. Because the last thing you want is getting pulled over in a foreign country because your indicators are not working. So a simple way of doing this is to put on your hazard lights and your headlights and then walk around the vehicle For the brake lights, you'll have to get someone to push the brake for you. And like I said, make sure to check your auxiliary lights as well. There's no point having that big expensive light bar on your roof if when you come to use it, and when you need it, it's not working. R would be for rubber. Rubber obviously meaning tyres. Now check general condition tyres, make sure there's no big stones or anything stuck in there. No big gashes on the sidewall, no evidence of slow leaks, but also your tyre pressure, which is why it's quite essential you keep tyre pressure gauge on you. If you're going to be off-roading, you're going to need one of these to inflate and deflate your tyres anyway, so it's worth getting. And obviously to check your tyres, ideally when the tyres are cold, screw your tyre gauge on and read the gauge. If you don't know your correct tyre pressures, then insult the owner's manual. It'll all depend on the weight of the vehicle and the size of the tyre. But there's one more thing that rubber stands for, which we need to go and check. Check your wiper blades. Now, easily forgotten, these things are essential to make sure you can still see when it starts pouring it down. So, flip them up and check along the blade to make sure there's no tears, no chunks missing or anything, or any signs of a lot of wear. You can get tools that kind of slice a new edge back into them, but if you can leave camp and swing by a local garage to grab a new set, then that's ideal. So that's it, that's your basic powder check complete. Now that, like I said, should be done ideally before you set off from camp every morning, and that would just give you an early indication if there's going to be any trouble down the road. And hopefully you can catch these things before they become a worse problem. So just to recap, P for petrol/diesel, check that you've got enough diesel or fuel for your trip. O, oil, obviously engine oil, but also check that auto box oil if you've got a dipstick for that and yours is an auto. W, water/fluids, check that coolant, but also check your brake fluid, your power steering fluid, your screen wash, any other fluids that your vehicle might be carrying. Some of the newer cars are now having to carry AdBlue, which again is another consideration. Make sure you've got enough of that. E for electrics, so check the voltages in your batteries. Is there anything wrong? Do they need charging? More importantly, check the lighting of the vehicle, both original lighting, road going lighting such as your headlights, your indicators, your brake lights, your fog lights and your reverse lights, as well as your auxiliary lighting, so that roof bar you've got on your roof, any auxiliary reversing lights, maybe even some camp lights, may as well give them a check while you're at it. And lastly, rubber. Check them tyres. Take pressures at all four corners. Even do the spare tyre while you're at it. You've got the tyre gauge out, you may as well check that spare wheel. Check for damage, any chunks out of the tread, any cracking on the sidewall, any foreign bodies stuck in there. But also remember them windscreen wipers. You might not need them for days, but all of a sudden there might be a monsoon, a load of rain, and all of a sudden your windscreen wipers aren't doing anything other than smudging the screen, so check them out while you're at it. What I would recommend is this is a very basic check that should be done, like I said, every single day. However, if you're camped up for a couple of days and you're not planning on moving for say 3 days, do a more extensive check. So get underneath there, whip the diff filler plugs out, especially if you've been doing a lot of water crossings, and check the condition of that oil. If it's milky, you've got water in there, you need to check that out. Check the things like props and UJs, maybe even pump a little bit of grease in if you haven't for a while. That should really be done before you leave though. For electrics, go around and test everything. Switches for lights, any auxiliary lighting, check that your fridge is working properly, check all the fuses, make sure none of them are blown. Again, check your voltages. If you've got solar panels, that would be a good time to clean them. So that's it for now. If there's anything you think I've missed and I'd like to maybe put on top of my list, then comment down below. If not, subscribe. We're still trying to get to them 1,000 subscribers. We're slowly getting there, but we're not quite there yet. And I shall see you later.